All right, welcome to the stream. Today we have Division 1, Round 4 in Divine iRacing League. Today we arrive at the Hungary. Reserves, we have quite a few reserves today, so I will be going through them once we get into the race. New to this year's game, we have the sprint shootout, so the new qualifying format in real life F1, where there's one qualifying for the sprint and a different qualifying for the race. So we're going to start with the OSQ for the sprint, and then I'm not sure if it's either the sprint or the OSQ for the race next, but that is how we're going to run through it today. So we'll see how things play out with this new format. To the members in the chat, for those of you who watched the real life Hungarian Grand Prix this past weekend, please feel free to put your thoughts from that race into the chat. I'd love to have a discussion with you. So it's raining for sprint qualifying. All right, we'll stick with Divine, because in OSQ it's a bit tough from the commentator's perspective. Divine currently in ninth position. Patty currently in the lead. I believe pole position was Lopotici last time out in Spain. He's currently in P3, but that's changing all the time. As you can see, all over the grid, everyone is changing positions up and down the order. Patty's still in the lead, so good for him. Let's see where Kaká is. He's right on him. The steps is now in. He was in second. Now he's back in the third. They're on intermediate tires. Up to the line now. Is Patty gonna keep the sprint pole? And he does. Patty with a 1 minute 26.9 takes pole position by 0.2 of a second. Kaká in P2, the steps in P3. I think there might be a restart here. I think there was someone that readied a bit too early, and there was some people caught out by that. They didn't get a chance to equip their setup. So we'll see what happens, but In that session, we had Patty on pole, a moment at 26.9, Kaká in P2, the steps in P3. So we will see now what comes next, and it is the sprint. So after the sprint, we're going to have the regular qualifying, which sets the grid for the race, and then we're going to have the race. So it looks like it's raining even harder for the sprint race. It's probably full wet conditions, which will make for a very interesting race. Those who practiced wet conditions will definitely have a big advantage here. And we're just receiving confirmation from Touchkey that we are not going to restart, so the grid will stay the same. Patty starting on pole. The light's gone green for the formation lap. So I believe everyone is on full wet tires. They are. So racing today, we'll start with the reserves, who are Yan in P8, Oliver Ritchie in P7, Typical Jimmy in P6. Kiwi was supposed to race, but I don't think he's here right now. And Kaka in the Aston Martin in P2. So I believe Tonga will be joining us, but he is not able to join at this moment. And the rest of the drivers, I believe, are full-time drivers. So not as many full-timers as the past 3 races, but we still have a solid amount, around 15. So after 3 races so far this season, your current Drivers' Championship leader is Cervillier with 76 points. In second place, we have the Steps with 62 points. And in third place, we have Patty with 56 points. Moving on to the constructors' standings. In P1, we have Mercedes with 108 points. In P2, we have Haas with 97 points. And in P3, we have Aston Martin with 89 points. So after that qualifying, P2 and P4, Aston Martin have a great chance to move up the order here in today's race. Last time out, we had an epic showdown until the finish for the lead of the race. That race was won by Cervillier, Oliver Ritchie coming in second, and Lopo Tikachi coming in third. Just waiting for Khan to make his way to the grid, and then we're going to get going. There was a patch today for the handling, which drastically changes things. I'm pretty sure it was a big patch, changed the handling quite a bit, which changes the way the drivers go about their race today. 5 red lights, and away we go. Here at Hungary, Kaka has a blitzing start off the line, and he's got to run onto Patty into turn 1. Here we go down the main straight. Is Kaka going to send it into turn 1? Makes the smart decision. Doesn't go for the dive bomb, but he has a great exit coming out of turn 1, and they're still side by side as they approach turn 2. Contact! Patty has the inside line, and he keeps that position for now. Oh, contact with Jimmy and Yan forces Jimmy off the track. Carnage in the midfield here. Sir Spongy makes a nice move into P9. Waza and Tutchke going side by side. Through turn 5 there. Khan is looking racy as well. Already made up 4 positions off the start. We go back to the battle here between Jimmy, Spongy, and Sparrow. Honga has joined, so he will be with us for the race. Three-tenths separate Cervoyer and Kaka. And after the first lap, Paddy maintains his lead. Your biggest gainer was Khan, who gained 4 positions, started at the back. He's now in P14. And your biggest faller is Marios, who fell from P13 to last place. So the rain isn't really helping the racing at this stage of the Grand Prix. But we do have a pretty close field, and almost all the cars are within 1 second of each other here on lap 2. Just going to make sure that my audio isn't too high. Oh, big slide from typical Jimmy. Lucky that he kept that one out of the wall. He loses a couple places there, but was a good save and easily could have been the end to his race. But Swanee getting closer and closer to Waza. Looked a little bit late on the brakes there. Big snap of oversteer. The track conditions look treacherous at the moment. There isn't really a dry line being formed on the track yet. After a few laps, we'll probably see all the cars displace the water to a different part of the racetrack, but right now it's just all water on every part of the track, and the drivers are getting caught out by these conditions. Lots of slides, lots of moments on the brakes and on the power. But no one has crashed out yet, which is a good sign. Another snap from Swanee. Waza goes wide. And he has another big snap of oversteer. These conditions must be terrible to drive in. Looks like we got Kaka getting closer to Paddy. 0.6 is the gap now. Hello, Tonga. Welcome to the stream. Oh, and Tutchke goes a little bit wide there. He's missing an end plate. He's missing his front left end plate on that V-carb. We'll see if Khan can get the move on him. Tutchke looked to have a good exit out of that corner, so I don't think Khan is going to have the opportunity. But with that damage on Tutchke's car, Khan will have an advantage, and it'll be a little bit easier for him to catch up. This is the closest battle on the track at the moment. Sparrow is also getting close to Sir Spongy in the McLaren. We're going to flip to that battle for a quick second, see what's going on here. Sparrow's been having a great season so far, it must be said. Last season, I have to double check this. He finished in P13 in the Drivers' Championship. Right now he's sitting in P7. Very consistent driver. He's putting on another great show here today in P9 so far. And we'll keep an eye on him, see how he does the rest of the race. Cervelier is getting close to his teammate Kaka. 3/10 separate the two. Kaka's got a full battery, and Cervelier is burning all of his to get by. Is this the first proper overtake we're going to see so far in this race? I think it is. Nice and easy down the outside there for Cervelier, and he gets the place. Go back to Sparrow here. He is right on the tail of Sir Spongy in that McLaren. 80% battery for the Sauber driver, 40% battery for the McLaren driver. Just looks very calm and composed in that green and black Formula One car. I haven't seen any snaps of oversteer or any big moments yet from him. He appears to be in his comfort zone. There was a pretty big snap of oversteer, but he looks to be holding his own so far this race. Go back to Swanee. It's the Red Bull in front of him. Waza has picked up a penalty. We must have missed that. 3 seconds, and he cuts the corner completely on the inside there. I'm not sure if... It doesn't look like he has any damage, but Waza clearly not enjoying these conditions at the moment. Cervelier is the fastest lap of the sprint race so far, 1 minute 29.9. Looks like Sparrow is right on the back of the McLaren once again. Is he going to go for it down the inside here into turn 1? Nice and easy for the Kick Sauber driver. Sir Spongy tries a switchback, but Sparrow's got it covered, and he is up into P8. And Swanee finally is able to get past Waza here. We've got a big train forming behind him. A big snap of oversteer from Waza there. We've got Khan, Tutchke, Divine, all looking very racy. Waza all over the back of the V-Carb has a huge snap of oversteer and makes contact with Khan. Around the outside. Beautiful move from Khan, but he goes off the track. Surely he'll have to give that place back, but Waza lost 2 positions there. He's going down the inside of Tutchke now. Does he send it into the chicane? Damage! Waza looked like he tapped Tutchke there. I think that move was a bit too ambitious. That chicane is very, very tight. Field starting to spread out a little bit now. So we are about to start lap 7. These cars are about to start lap 7. Great exit from Khan there. Oh, and he's pitting. Swanee is. And so does Khan. That was interesting. It looked like he was staying out, but then they both ended up making pit stops. I don't think they had damage, but I guess they do. So that promotes Tutchke, Waza, Divine, and James. Couple positions. Lopo Tikachi was able to gain a place. He's now up into P4, but the steps is right on the back of that Ferrari. 4/10 separate the 2 cars. Cervelier is getting close to Paddy as well. They're currently going through the 3rd sector. That was a drastic time gap change between the 2 cars. Only 3/10 separate them now. We'll see if Cervelier is able to make the move here into turn 1. After winning the last race in Spain, he's currently the Drivers' Championship leader. He's got all the momentum on his side. He's only 3/10 behind Paddy. Both drivers abusing their ERS. Cervoyer is the fastest lap of the race. Is he going to send it into turn one? He's later on the brakes, but it just isn't enough. And Paddy keeps that place for now. But Cervoyer is not going down without a fight. Sparrow and Sir Spongy trading places in P8 and 9. And Divine loses a couple places. I'm not sure what's going on there. I don't think anyone went off the track. We're going to switch to that battle for a quick second, see what's going on. I think some pit stops were made. Sir Spongy, Jimmy, James, and Wazar are all pitting to intermediate tires. So they didn't have damage, Khan and Swanee. They pitted because of changes in the conditions. Very interesting. We'll see if any of the drivers at the front make the move here, because in changing conditions, being on the right tire is absolutely crucial. And you would think that 20 seconds, it's not worth it, but in changing conditions, being on the right tire can save up to 5 seconds, if not more, per lap. So these two are staying out for now. So is Kaka, but if the intermediates are the right tires, then that could mean the difference between a win and not even being on the podium, as Yan and Oliver Ritchie are also making their way into the pits. So I think the leaders, they don't have the luxury of pitting just yet, because they want to keep the track position for now. The track position is what's important, because if the intermediates are the wrong call, then they could see themselves outside the top 10. So I don't think any of these 5 are going to be making pit stops. I could be wrong, but everyone behind them, if they made the right call on the intermediate tires, might be able to challenge these front runners. So we'll see how this sprint ends up playing out. This is boiling up to be quite an exciting finish, I must say. We can see a dry line is forming on the track, so maybe Inters are the right call. We've seen new fastest laps every single lap. We've just seen a purple Sector 2 from Cervoyer, so the track conditions are definitely improving. Just the question is a pit stop worth it? We're approaching lap 10 now. They would need to gain about 7 seconds per lap on the intermediate tires, and they're staying out. So, like I said, I don't think these 4 are going to pit, because it just doesn't make sense at this stage. But the steps is coming in. Had a little bit of a slide there on the pit entry, and Cervoyer has gotten the move done, and he's into the lead. Paddy is right on the back of him. Is he going to send it around the outside? He tries to, but Cervoyer has that covered. Lopo, Tikichi, and Kaka are also battling it out here. Lopo up into P3 now. Started in P5, I believe. Sir Spongy on intermediate tires sets the fastest lap of the race. So that's your indicator right there. Again, Marios sets the fastest lap of the race. So the intermediates are the quickest tire at this stage. The question is, are the intermediate compound runners able to catch up to the wet compound runners? Because the pit stop that they made has just added about a 20-second gap between them and the cars on wets. So we're going to keep an eye on the gap currently between Sparrow and the steps. Sparrow's on wets and the steps is on inters, and the gap right now is 9.7. So we'll see how that gap changes as the race goes on. So the way I see it, I think the inters are definitely the faster tire, but I don't think it was worth it to make the stop, because as you can see, all the drivers who are on wets have gained track position. You can see from P10 to P18, all those drivers are on inters, so they may be lapping faster now, but they've just lost track position, and they only have about 1.5 laps to make up that position again. So in my opinion, it wasn't worth it. You can see Tutski just got passed by Yen, but Tutski and Divine, who were closer to P13, 14 at the start of this race, are now in P8 and P10 simply by staying out and gaining time on the others. So it's been about almost one lap since we last checked in on these two, and it looks like the steps gained 2 seconds in that lap. So yeah, 2 seconds per lap. It's not worth it at all, because I think the first drivers put on lap 7. That gives you 6 laps. 6 times 2 is 12 seconds. A pit stop is well over 12 seconds. So around about 20 seconds pit stops in Formula One. So the Inters were not the right call, unfortunately. Look at Sparrow now. He's in P5. Last time we checked on him, he was in P8 or 9. So that just goes to show how important the strategy really is. Starting the last lap of the Grand Prix now. Cervoyer is still in the lead. Patty's right behind him. The main straight into turn 1 is no longer an option for an overtake because the finish line is in the middle of that straight. So I don't think there are many other good overtaking opportunities on this track other than turn 1. And right now, Patty isn't nearly close enough to be able to make a move regardless. He's almost 6/10 behind Villiers in the Aston Martin. Now it's 8/10. He lost loads of time through that section, slipping and sliding on those wet compound tires. So it looks like Cervoyer is going to take victory here in the Hungarian Grand Prix sprint race. See Oliver Ritchie getting past Tutski. Divine has dropped all the way to P13, so the wets aren't the faster tire, but they did gain a couple positions, and it was worth staying out. So the American driver, Cervoyer, is going to come across the line to win the sprint race in Hungary. Paddy comes home in P2. Lobo Tigachi gained a couple positions, and he finishes in 3rd. The steps got the gap down to 2 seconds, but it wasn't enough, and Sparrow is going to come home in P5. The steps P6 as he sets the fastest lap of the race. Yan in P7 with a penalty. Sir Spongy in P8. Oliver Ritchie P9. Tutski gained a few positions, stayed out on the wets. Gained 1 position. So closer to the end of that race, the Inters were becoming more and more superior over the wet tires, but Sparrow is a perfect example of the strategy difference. He gained 5 positions, and I think 2 or 3 of them were solely because drivers ahead of him pitted for Inters and they didn't have enough pace to re-overtake him. It's all a gamble, it really is. And when you're full of adrenaline on the racetrack, it's hard to make a rational decision and think about which choice is best. You just have to go with your gut. You have to react to what other drivers are doing. And for some drivers, the strategy worked, and for some drivers, it didn't. So I'm sure, regardless of what the outcome was, they will remember this race and they will learn from it. So Cervoyer, your sprint race winner here at Hungary. Paddy, 2nd place. Lobo Tigachi, P3. Kaká, Sparrow, The Steps, Ian, Sir Spongy, Oliver Ritchie, Touch, Marios, Jimmy, Swanee, Khan, Divine, James, Waza, Mihu. And up next is your one-shot qualifying. So, one shot qualifying for the race appears to be dry. We'll see which drivers are the quickest in dry weather. Just give me one moment, please. I'll be back shortly. So here we go then. Qualifying for Hungarian Grand Prix race. Right now, Servoye is in the lead after turn one. Richie in P2, Patty in P3. Lobotikici, who we're on board with right now, currently in P7. Purple Sector 1 for the American. Abusing the curb. And look at this. Fresh into the race. Just joined the lobby. Tonga is in the lead. He's had a great start to this season. I'm sure he's loving the new game. He's had a huge improvement in terms of pace compared to last season, in my opinion. He's going through the final corner now. Let's see who takes pole position for the Hungarian Grand Prix D1 DER. And Tonga gets it by less than a tenth. Servoye takes P2, Richie P3. What a lap from the Alpine driver. The man from Uruguay, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's the Uruguay flag. Tonga P1, 1 minute 14.7. Servoye P2, Richie P3. Lobotikici, Sir Spongy, The Steps, Khan, Yan, Waza, Marios, James, Divine, Kaka, Mihu, Swanee, Touch, Jimmy. Patty, who finished second in the sprint race, and Sparrow. So we've got dry weather for the start of the race. here in Hungary. We had a wet sprint qualifying. We had a wet sprint. Now we had a dry qualifying and a dry start to this race. Keep in mind that rain could end up falling towards the end of this race, which would 100% spice things up for this race. Again, strategy will mean all the difference. Making the right call can mean the difference between 5 place position gain, a 10 place position gain, or falling down the other way, losing 5 or 10 places. So a dry to wet race is definitely something that we would love to see. And it is overcast for the start of this race, so rain is definitely possible. If you have any predictions that you'd like to share, please feel free to put it in the chat. I think Lopotici is going to win. I think Jimmy's going to DNF, and I think Touch is going to finish in the top 10. Let's take a look at the tires. Hards and mediums. Tire wear is very high here at Hungary. Lots of high-speed corners, which puts a great deal of stress on tires. This section coming up here is a big stressor. Left, right, and another high-speed left-right section. So hard to medium is definitely the optimal strategy. Touch the sole driver on soft tires. It's probably gonna hope for an early safety car and utilize that to his advantage and make a stop to the hard compound. We've got 8 drivers on hards and 9 drivers on medium. Oh, no, I didn't count. 10 drivers on medium, 8 drivers on hard, and 1 driver on soft. That was some crazy angle from Khan. He got disqualified on the line. And Tonga is going to lead the field down to turn 1 here for the Division 1 Hungarian Grand Prix. 5 red lights. It's lights out, and away we go. Here for the Division 1 DER Hungarian Grand Prix as Servoye has another cracking launch off the line. Here we go into turn 1. He sends it down the inside, locks up. Huge lockup for the Aston, but he's into the lead. Lopotici keeps in P3. Tonga in P2. Lopotici gained a position, actually. He started in P4. Got our usual chaos close to the back here. But James and Mario side by side to the high-speed left-hander. Got Swanee getting racy, looking for a move on Devine down the inside. Wow, Devine. Great effort to avoid contact with Jimmy there. So as you can see, we've got Touchki already up into P9. Gained 7 positions on those softs. And Lopotici finds his way past Tonga to get up into P2 here. So after the first lap, Servoye leads the pack in P1, Lopotici in P2, Tonga in P3. Your biggest gainer after lap 1 is Touchkey, gained 7 positions, and your biggest faller so far would be Kaka and Mihu, who both dropped 5 positions. Another big lockup there from Servoyer. Appears to be struggling a little bit on the brakes so far. So as you can see on the screen there, a 2-stopper is doable, medium, medium, hard. Safety cars will definitely play into the decision of the drivers. And Tonga runs wide there on the high-speed right-hander. That opens the door wide open for Yan to go for a move down the inside. Tonga leaves the space and gets a good exit, but makes contact with the Red Bull driver. Yan looks for a move around the outside, but there's nothing there. Good defense from Tonga. Stays in P3. Lopo Tikachi sets the fastest lap of the race, and he is gaining on Servoyer. In the Ferrari, down the inside, locks the front right, and Servoyer goes for the switchback. Side by side, down to turn 2. Here we go. Another huge lockup for the American, but he hangs around the outside, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is a lovely overtake from Servoyer. He's back up into the lead. Yan ran a bit wide there at turn 4, and Swanee already picks up a penalty, but it's not a track limit penalty, it's ignoring yellow flag, and he gets 10 seconds for that one. So probably made an overtake under yellow flag conditions that might get removed. There's a chance. Switch to the penalty screen. Marios is out. Big contact there, probably with Waza. I was just about to switch to Marios' onboard because he was gaining positions, and it looks like he has made contact with another driver. He's now out of this race. So that is a virtual safety car. Might get upgraded to a full safety car. Depends on the severity of the incident, but that didn't look pretty. Looked like a very heavy shunt for Marios, and we've gone green, so stewards opted to stick with the VSC, and now we're under green flag conditions. Servoyer continues to lead the pack 4/10 up on Lopo Tikachi, and James picks up a penalty for ignoring track limits. But Tonga getting past Paddy here. Yan gets a penalty as well. Drivers are having a pretty tough time, it looks like, with these track limits. We already have 3 drivers with a 3-second time penalty. Paddy's gaining on Tonga. He opts for the outside line, but no room for a move there. Tonga gets a snap of oversteer on the exit of that corner, but DRS aids him in his defense, and he stays in P11. We've got Swanee and Jimmy getting racy in the first sector now. Swanee looking for a move into turn 4. That's not conventional. A huge snap of oversteer, and he's into the wall. Swanee has lost his front wing. Another lockup from Servoyer. We keep catching him with these lockups. Again there. I'm not sure if it's a glitch with the game or if he's truly having trouble on the brakes, but that is definitely not ideal, especially at a high tire wear track like the Hungaroring. That is not going to be in his favor. He gets lucky there with a snap of oversteer from Lopotikici at the final corner, and he doesn't need to defend on that particular occasion. Got the Steps and Spongy going side by side. And Swanee, penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He'll probably retire on his own now unless he wants to keep going. We'll see in a few moments' time if he retires. And he has retired. So that is Swanee's race over after shunting with the barrier in the middle sector. Sparrow up into P10 after qualifying P18. Or P19 was it? It was P19. He started in dead last. So Kaka, Waza, and Mihu made pit stops under the VSC. Everybody else opted to stay out. And they are all on the same tires that they started the race on. Welcome, viewers. Feel free to be active in the chat. I'd love to have discussions with you guys. What I'm here for. It makes my job more exciting. Maybe you guys can learn something as well. And Touchkey's out! Touchkey crashed on the exit of turn 1, and that is a safety car. So surely the medium compound runners are going to come in. Maybe a couple hard runners will make their stops as well. After what was such a good start from the Dutch driver. Made up 7 or 8 places on the first lap. His race comes to an end on lap 7 after making contact with the barrier at the exit of turn 1. And that is both V-carbs out of this race. We can see the sun starting to peek out of the clouds a little bit. And Lopotikici is coming into the pits. So is Richie and so is Yan. So it looks like most of the medium compound runners are opting for a pit stop and the hard runners are staying out, as I predicted. Fresh hards for all of these drivers. Jimmy pitted for fresh mediums. So let's look at the race director. Jimmy pitted from hards to mediums. Interesting. So Jimmy is probably going to go for a 2-stopper. Kaká boxes again to hards. He could go to the end on those. All the drivers that just pitted for hards probably have the option to make it to the end if they can keep their tires in decent condition. After the safety car comes in, it's going to be about 25 laps. So if they have the tire management skills, it is 100% doable. And if there isn't another safety car, then that might be the better strategy. Hungaroring is an extremely difficult track to overtake on. Turn 1 is the only real chance, and you have to be within a certain distance to be able to make that move. So track position is key at circuits like these, Whereas a circuit like Monza or Spa, where overtaking is much more occurring, extra pit stops are okay because you can use the advantage of your fresh tires to re-overtake your opponents. So we'll see what these drivers choose. Lopatikachi, Oliver Ritchie, Yan, Khan, Sparrow, and Kaka. I think Lopatikachi is a dark horse in this race. He just pitted for fresh tires, and he's still in P5. So if he can keep those in good condition, then he's got a great chance of winning this race. Just needs to defend like a lion, in the words of Fernando Alonso. So we are receiving information from Touchkey. He says he's used his ERS too soon out of the first corner. The ERS gave him an extra boost of power, which was a little bit too much for the tires to handle, and that is what caused the spin out of the first corner. That first corner is one of the trickiest traction zones on the calendar, especially with DRS, because opening the DRS gives you a decrease in rear downforce. So if the car isn't fully planted and you open the DRS, that is a free pass for a spin out of turn 1. Safety car is coming in now. And once Cervoyer stamps on the throttle, we will be racing once again here at Hungary. And Cervoyer is off into the distance. 5/10 separate him and the steps. Sir Spongy got a good launch off of that restart, and Paddy did as well. All over the back of the McLaren. 2/10 separate them. James and Yan going side by side through turn 3. Yan is the inside line, and then we're going 3 wide into turn 4. And Yan makes a smart decision and backs out, gives Khan the position. As we had said before, a move into turn 4 is not conventional by any means, and Yan would rather focus on his race than that one position. So we saw Lopatikachi gain a position. He's now into P4, the steps, 3.5 tenths behind the American Villiers. No DRS just yet. It will be enabled coming out of turn 1. Lopatikachi goes down the inside into turn 1. Nice and easy. And he's up into P3. Oh! Divine and Tonga getting very racy, and it is absolute carnage here in the midfield. We're going to stick with this battle for a little bit. We have a bit of a train here being led by Divine. Oh, abusing the curbs there in the chicane. Currently on board with Kaka, who gets a great exit out of that corner, but is blocked by Jimmy, and there's really nothing Kaka can do there. As we said, turn 1 is the only real overtaking opportunity because of the DRS zone leading up to that corner and just the width of the track at that point. This track is very narrow. If you haven't seen, and Jimmy gets caught up in an incident there with James. He drops a few positions, but he goes down the inside of it. James' teammate Sparrow makes contact with him as well. Absolute carnage here in the midfield. And Sparrow gets past Jimmy and his teammate James. 2 positions in 1 corner. Great job from the Scottish driver. Devine goes wide there, and Kaká goes for a lovely switchback into turn 5. What a move. Devine loses 2 positions in 1 corner there. Sparrow overtakes Devine. All this battling has allowed Tonga to build a 1.5 second gap away from the rest of these drivers. Mihu all over the back of the Alpine Jimmy. Mihu's been quiet so far today, but he's got pace in the tank of that Williams car. We'll keep an eye on him, see how he progresses today. Got a yellow flag. Looks like someone had an incident there in the first sector. Waza picks up a penalty for track limits. Switch back to the penalty screen. We've got 5 drivers so far with track limit penalties. Got a good battle heating up at the front here as well. Cervelier down to Patty are all within DRS of each other. Another lockup from Cervelier. I'm really curious to know what his tires are at right now. On lap 13 of this race, he's on hard tires. He started on those hards, but we've seen him lock up numerous times. And a new addition to this year's game is that lockups are a lot more punishable compared to F1 23. There's another lockup for Cervelier into turn 1. So given how many lockups he's had, I'm not sure his tires are doing great, and he will probably have to pit soon and potentially even run a 2-stop strategy. Richie has a look onto Lopotikici into turn 4, but makes the smart decision and does not send it into that tight, high-speed left-hander. Typical Jimmy picked up another penalty a few moments ago. He's now on 6 seconds worth of track limit penalties. A bit of a stalemate right now. It's quite the DRS train here at the front. Not really much action happening. Sparrow is getting close to Kaká, and he makes the move. Is he going to make the move down the main straight? Doesn't appear to have much overspeed here. To turn 1, big lockup from Kaká, and big snap oversteer, and Sparrow has lost the car. So that's another driver being caught out by the tricky traction zone of turn 1. I think he opened the DRS a bit too early there, similar to Tutschke's case where he turned on the battery a little bit too early. So Cervelier leads this race. We're on lap 15 of 35, and he's got a 4/10 margin between him and the steps. Yeah, there's just not much happening on the track right now. This is where strategy is crucial, and an undercut, as we saw last week, how powerful the undercut was, could prove to be the dominant force yet again. Big stab of oversteer, the steps, almost loses the car. We're starting to get to the pit window. Cervoyer, the steps, and Patty are yet to pit as Lopetegui goes for a nice move down the inside there. And especially in Patty's case, who's at the back of this train but can easily gain many positions with an undercut. So if I'm Patty, I am pitting pretty soon for a set of mediums and then just defending from that point on. And hopefully he gets past the other drivers because of the undercut. So that would be the ideal situation for the Irishman. Richie looks down the inside, but there isn't any room there for him. Steps does a nice job defending his position. We've got a yellow flag in Sector 2. I believe it's Mihu. Hasn't really been Mihu's day so far. Didn't make too much noise in the sprint. He's having a tough one so far in the race. Hopefully he can get back on track. Lopetegui gets a penalty for track limits. That is not ideal. Waza picks up a penalty as well. We're almost at the halfway point of this race. Another snap from the steps. The tires are pretty much done on his, Cervoyer's, and Patty's cars. As Oliver Ritchie breezes past the Haas into turn 1. That's 2 positions lost for the steps in 1 lap. 1 or 2 laps. So that's a good indicator that it's time to pit for the 3 that I just mentioned, Cervoyer, the steps, and Patty. They can use the fresh medium tires to gain time on these other hard compound runners, and once they make their pit stops, the undercut will hopefully work in their favor and they'll be able to leapfrog the other cars. Who's going to be the first one to dive into the pits? Another lockup from Villiers. Not much to say right now. There's not much happening on the track. And it appears that all these drivers are content to stay in this DRS train. Which is confusing to me because it looks like they're all losing a little bit of time being in this train. And if they just make a pit stop, utilize a fresh set of mediums, they can easily gain lots of time in all these drivers. And especially in Patty's case, who's in P7 right now, I think if he was to pit to mediums right now, get some time on these hard runners, and once they make their stops, he has a chance of being in the lead. After what was a qualifying that didn't go his way, this is a glorious opportunity for him to get back to the top of the field in today's race. So Khan is almost breaking up this DRS train. He is 9.5 tenths behind Richie. He was briefly a second behind him for a second there. And if he doesn't have DRS, that leaves him defenseless against the steps. And Lopotikici is coming in on 11-lap old hards. So Lopotikici is opting for the undercut, and the steps crashes into Yan there at another snap of oversteer. So I believe it's going to be fresh mediums. It is fresh mediums for Lopotikici. So this is his race to win here. He should have a bit of a gap to Sparrow. We'll see where he ends up coming out of the pits. He gets overtaken by Sparrow and Sir Spongy. Let's see if he keeps this place. Side by side with Sir Spongy into turn 2. Makes use of those fresh tires. It goes around the outside. So Lopotici's on fresh mediums, which are much faster and are way grippier than these 19 and 12 lap old hards that the front runners are currently on. So by utilizing that extra grip, he can shorten the gap between him and the front runners, and by the time they make their pit stops, he has a chance of being in the lead. And Servier responds to Lopotici's pit stop, and he comes in. And surprisingly, the steps stays out, but Paddy does make his stop. So now, Lopoticici was the first domino to fall, and now the rest of them are starting to make their stops as well. It's a solid stop from the Mercedes crew. What happened there? Why was Paddy stuck in the pit box? Servier comes out ahead of Lopoticici by quite a bit, actually. So that was the right call from the American, responding to Lopotici's undercut. Look at that. Paddy is almost in DRS of the Ferrari. This Ferrari was in the top 3, and now Paddy, who's in P7, is fighting with him. Just goes to show, ladies and gentlemen, how important the strategy is. Mark my words, these 3 are going to be P1, P2, and P3 once these 4 make their pit stops, just because of the advantage that they have on their fresh medium tires. Surely these 4 are going to respond in the pit lane. Now, Olo Richie stays out, Yan stays out, Khan stays out, and the step stays out too. I mean, I guess these 3 could make it to the end on those, but there's no way the steps is going to be able to do that. He's been on those tires since the start of this race, and we've seen him have multiple snaps of oversteer there so far in this race. So surely he needs to come in soon, because he's just losing time on those tires. That's all he's doing. He's out of DRS to Khan, and there's really no point for him to stay on them. And Oliver Ritchie has picked up a penalty, and he goes wide on the exit of turn 5. This is a door that's just been opened wide for Paddy. Lopoticici, Khan, Yan, and Ritchie all have penalties, and the steps is just losing loads of time on those used hard tires. Paddy has a good chance to get back up onto the podium here. He just needs to make use of those medium tires, hope that they last him to the end of this race, and he's looking good. And finally, the steps comes into the pits. We're going to see how much time he lost by staying out onto those hards. Servier is heading down the main straight now. He overtakes the steps. Lopoticici is overtaking the steps now as well. Let's see where Paddy ends up. The steps just made his way out of the pit lane, and he gets overtaken by Paddy. So there you have it then, ladies and gentlemen. The undercut working at its finest. Paddy has just jumped the steps and has 1.5 seconds on the Haas driver. Yen is now within DRS range of the Nigerian Richie. See if he's able to make a move. I mean, these three have committed to this strategy, so I think they would be staying out until the end. It doesn't really make much sense to make a pit stop at this stage unless there's a late safety car. If they were going to make a stop, they would have made it a few laps ago. So 6.5 tenths between Richie and Yan here. Spongy within DRS of Paddy as well, and the steps is flying. He's already right on the back of the McLaren. Just 1 lap ago, he was a second behind. Now he's 2 tenths behind. So he will look to get past the McLaren, and then Paddy is his next prey. Paddy has dropped off quite a bit from Lopo Tikachi, so I'm not sure the pace is there for right now for Paddy. He's almost 6 seconds behind the Ferrari, and he's about to be eaten up by the steps unless he can find some pace. Servoyer gets past his teammate Kaka. He's up into P4, and he's got 7.5 seconds separating him and the top three. And the steps goes for the move down the inside, and he spun. We had missed what happened there, and Paddy spins as well. He was ghosted, so there must have been contact. I think the steps went for a move down the inside, took out Paddy. Sir Spongy, thankfully for him, wasn't affected by that incident. We've got Yan within striking distance of Richie. Keep in mind, though, he's got 6 seconds in penalties. And Paddy picks up a penalty, too. So, if Servoyer continues to drive like this, he's the clear favorite to win this race. He's gained almost 2 seconds over that last lap. And he's continuing to gain time on those fresh mediums. Yan is slowly catching up to Richie. He needs to make a move and then utilize that full tank of ERS to build a 3-second gap to factor out his penalty if he is going to win this race. What tires is Kaka on? He is on the tires that he pitted for under the safety car. So Lopo Tikachi is catching up to him now, but he does have that penalty. So Kaka has made good use of those tires up to this point, and his strategy is looking to be a decent one as well. 3 tenths now separate the McLaren and the Red Bull. Yan is just creeping closer and closer and closer every lap, every corner to the Nigerian, who has a big snap of oversteer, and Yan is going to go down the inside into the final corner. He's going to get the DRS benefit as well. And now we have a new race leader, Yan, in the Red Bull. Tikichi is now in DRS of Kaka, 6/10 between the two drivers. He's gotten that gap down to 4/10 in that sector alone. So Lopatikichi is using those fresh tires to his advantage, but he needs to build up a 3-second gap if he overtakes Kaka due to that penalty. So if he overtakes him, we'll see how the gap changes between him and the top three, but I think the maximum he can do in this race is P5. There isn't much time left, and Waza is out. I think that was a retirement in the pit lane, but if that was a late safety car, that changes things drastically. That would have opened the door wide open for the front runners to pit for fresh tires. Lopatikichi is going to breeze past the Aston Martin of Kaka into turn 1. He's now up to P5, but he still has work to do to eliminate that 3-second time penalty. Tonga has gone past Sir Spongy as well. He's up into P7, but keep in mind he does have that 10-second time penalty. We've got a yellow flag in Sector 1. Who is that caused by? And Yan picks up another penalty. So that is his place on the podium thrown out the window. Although Richie, Khan, and Villiers will surely get within range of those penalties to overtake him. Villiers is now within DRS range of Khan. He still needs to overtake him. Richie gets back up into the lead, and Sermouillet gets up into P3. He is 3.7 behind Oliver Richie. So right now, Richie is your race leader. But I don't think that will be the case for very long, as Sermouillet is absolutely flying on his medium tires. And he might not win it on track, but after these penalties, he will surely be the race winner unless something catastrophic happens in the next 6 laps. Got a yellow flag, and it appears to be a McLaren. Or is it a Ferrari? I think it was Divine. He's coming into the pits now. Maybe change the front wing. Just a tire change for Divine. Four tenths between the steps and Tonga, but it's not enough to make a move into turn 1 just yet. Has another slide coming out of turn 1 there. Tonga runs wide at turn 5, goes a little bit deep. With that penalty, it's not going to matter at the end of the race, but it gives us some excitement, something to watch after, unfortunately, what's been a little bit of a boring race to this point. Yellow flag. Looks to be Mihu on the exit of turn 1. Civilier gets past Yan, and now the only thing that stands in his way is the McLaren of Richie, but he still has that 3-second penalty. And it looks like the Steps has an opportunity now. The overspeed came rather quickly down the main straight, but he is able to avoid the Alpine, and he is up into P8. Lopotikici picks up another penalty, so he's now on 6 seconds. 4 laps remaining. Kaká has a chance of overtaking him. He opens the DRS and he goes for the easy pass down the inside, and your Aston Martin driver is back up into the lead on track. Got a yellow flag in Sector 1. Think that's Jimmy. Currently in P12 with 12 seconds of time penalties. We do have one battle appears to still be going on, which is Lopotikici and Khan battling for P4. Lopotikici does have an extra 3 seconds in time penalties, but Khan can still pick up another penalty, or Lopotikici can surprise us all and take 3 seconds away from Khan in the last 2 laps here. We will see what happens, but he's going to breeze past the Mercedes driver down the main straight, and he's up into P4 on track, so we'll keep an eye on this battle. just trying to get every car on the stream. Usually it's hard to get everyone some solid screen time, but there's not really much going on the track right now. So for those who do watch the stream back and would like to see themselves in action, then these last two laps are dedicated to those people. So we're on the last lap of the race, and Cervoyer is coming around the final corner, and he comes home to win the Hungarian Grand Prix. Jan comes across the line in P2, but penalties demote him to P4. Richie takes P2. Khan takes P3. Lopetegui takes P4. Jan demoted to P5. Kaká P6. Sir Spongy P7. The steps was P8. Lopetegui DNFs, interestingly. So everyone from Kaká down gets promoted a place. Tonga P8, Paddy P9, Sparrow P10, Jimmy P11 on track. After penalties, James will take that P11. So Jimmy P11 on track, James P12 on track, and we had Divine and Mihu already finished their race due to being lapped. So there you have it then. Driver of the day goes to Kaká. So Cervoyer, a demanding day for the American, won the sprint race, won the race, picking up maximum points at Hungary today. Richie P2, Con P3, Jan, Kaká, Spongy, The Steps, Tonga, Paddy, Sparrow, James, Jimmy, Lopetegui, Divine, Mihu, Waza, Touchkey, Swanee, and Marios rounds out the grid. So we're gonna get the top three finishers into the stream for a quick interview. Hello, Con. Welcome to the stream. Just gonna make sure that the stream can hear you. Could you speak, please? Just checking. I don't think they can hear you. So what you need to do is, are you on the party screen? So on the right, there's three dots more. So you press the three dots, then voice chat settings, and then share your voice, allow.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, just checking.
Yep.
Yeah,
Hello?
we can hear you. Awesome. All right. So, Con, uh, P3, I believe that's the first podium of the season for you. Talk us through that race. You know, you were in that DRS train for the first stint, and then you made your pit stop, and then you kind of ran your own race at the front there.
Yo, how's it going?
Yes, I boxed under the safety car, and after that it was okay. Um, the problem is my qualifying. I didn't do the setup right because I think I readied up quickly. So yeah, my setup was quite bad for the
Oh,
race. So I had to basically box under the safety car and just continue then. Luckily, people around me got the penalties, and that helped me out.
so how does this podium finish give you momentum going for the rest of the season? You know, it hasn't really been like the best for you in terms of results so far. You have been doing well. You're currently in fourth in the standings, but they're like I said, this is the first podium. So how does this improvement in terms of results give you momentum for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. We got a good setup with Paddy as well. He's a really good teammate. We are aiming for constructors for first, and then we will move on to the drivers later. But yes, really good result for Mercedes, and I believe we can win this constructors championship. Yeah, so good momentum. Unlucky for Paddy, but yeah.
For sure. Always good to be thinking of the constructors' standings. Obviously, it's better when you have a teammate that you can trust, which just sounds like you do. And it's been a great start to the season as a team. You guys are currently in first place, and it was looking good for Patty, but unfortunately, he had an incident at the end there with the steps. So, good luck next race, Con. Thank you for the interview, and yeah, we'll see you next week.
Okay, thank you very much. I see you next week too.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Cheers.
All right, Chevalier, are you there?
I am indeed. Apologies for interrupting.
No problem, no problem. So another race win for you. This one was dominant. You won the sprint. You won the race as well. You were in the lead for pretty much the entire race, apart from that undercut pit stop at the end there. So talk us through that race. How did the car feel today?
Yeah, car felt great. Had a really good setup, so I was really happy with that. I mean, I did have some overheating on my rear left tire, which has been it's a big problem around this track. Once you overheat that tire, the first time it's really hard to get the temperatures back down to normal. So I was managing that a little bit through my last stint, but really happy to come out with both the sprint and the main race win.
Would you say that the new patch today has affected those tire temps, or it's always been a struggle on this game?
So, I mean, I was doing a little bit of practice on this track, and it seemed to be always the same issue. But I mean, I haven't really noticed much since the patch, to be honest with you. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
So, how much are you looking forward to next week's race? Next week we arrive at Monaco. Is that a track that you think suits you?
Oh God, absolutely no. I think everyone hates Monaco. I mean, I really struggle around there, especially being controller player as well. It's my worst nightmare.
Oh,
So, hopefully I can, just qualify well and then hope to secure some good points.
well, you've been doing that all season long. You're currently the leader in the Drivers' Championship, and after that amazing performance today, you are increasing your lead in the Drivers' Championship. So, thank you so much for the interview, Servilier, and good luck next week.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Have a good night. So, I don't think Richie is available tonight. So, that rounds out today's race. Thank you for watching, everybody, and have a good night. Bye bye.